Okay, so I think we'll start so that we
Okay.
try to start on time. And this will be recorded, so if you have to go back to it, or for people who enter late, they can just go to the video after.
Okay.
So the goal of today is just to give an overview of what AIT is. I am sharing my screen, so I can't see everybody who has their camera on. So if you raise your hand, or if you write in the chat and I don't see it, feel free to interrupt. It's fine. I don't get mad. So that we can also have a conversation and you can ask your questions before you forget them. So welcome. My name is Ruth Córdova, and I've been an AIT teacher since 2008 and an AIT therapist since 2006. No, 2005. It's been a while. And I have been training other therapies like EMDR, EFT, Gestalt therapy, and others. But AIT keeps being my main and core therapy that I use. I find it to be very effective, very gentle with clients, and I just love working with AIT. So I'm happy to be able to share today what it is about, so that you can know more and hopefully get trained and join this community. So let's talk a little bit about what AIT is. So Advanced Integrative Therapy, or AIT, is a trauma-based therapeutic model, meaning that we look at the causes of the symptom the person brings, and we explore the reasons behind them. We don't do like some therapies that work with whatever the people bring. We do, of course, take into account why they bring and talk to them and do the history intake and all the things that we do in normal therapy or psychology. But we also emphasize on looking the reasons behind symptoms that the person has today. So a symptom can be a physical illness that we have protocols and seminars in AIT for that. It could be emotional distress, any type of emotional distress like anxiety or depression or fear, grief, any type of issue emotionally. Mental health issues like personality disorders, anxiety disorders, phobias, and so on. Relational problems as well, like with a partner or with a boss or with a family member or with family in general. Spiritual blockage as well, and more. And if you have seen clients, you know that the array of symptoms that people bring can be very, very wide. So talking a little bit about what is this therapy, I want to tell you a little bit about how we see the person. So Virginia Satir is an important systemic therapist. She created the Satir model, and she talked a long time ago about the human being as a combination of the physical, the psychological, and the spiritual. We don't see people as separate parts, like the cognitive is here and the body is here. We see people as a whole. And taking into account that the person is a whole, we need to work with all those parts. So Asha Clinton, who is the developer of AIT, also views a person as a whole being that includes all parts. And for healing to happen, we need to work with all of them. So AIT includes the body and the energy system in the psychological treatment of trauma and its consequences. So we use all these tools to target psychological issues, including all the parts of the person. So let's talk a little bit about what trauma is from the AIT perspective. So the definition that Asha Clinton gives us is any occurrence which, when we think back to it or when it's triggered by some present event, evokes difficult emotions and or physical symptoms or sensations, gives rise to negative beliefs, desires, fantasies, compulsions, obsessions, addictions, or dissociation, blocks the development of positive qualities and spiritual connection, and fractures human wholeness. So this refers to any situation in the past that still bothers us today. even if we are not aware of it. That's the trick, that many, many times we are not aware of the traumatic events that are still affecting us today. And they produce symptoms in our daily life, even if we don't know, and those symptoms can be pervasive. So AIT looks at most psychopathology as the result of trauma, which means that we can treat it in most of the cases. So AIT follows this definition of trauma in the treatment, so that it can be long-lasting. We do a thorough work so that the results of the work will endure in time. That means that we will work with something called three-step transformation, which is the heart of AIT. And this means that we will work by stages. So we'll work with originating trauma, so the causes of the events today, in the past. We will work with recent trauma or initiating trauma, which is what is happening now, the situation now. And then we will work with the connection between those two, making sure we clear all the parts of the traumatic events and all their consequences. So an example can be that a person's father was an addict and would disappear for days. So that would be the originating trauma. So what happened in the past. And the recent trauma would be that because of that happened, the person is usually attracted to unavailable and absent men who end up living without an explanation. And this happens over and over. And the person may not know why this is happening. So that's the problem today. And then we break the connection between the two. Because my father was an addict and would disappear, now I'm attracted to unavailable and absent men who end up living without an explanation. So of course, this will take exploration between the therapist and the client so that we can create insight and find those causes together and those links together. So how does AIT work? We will work with beliefs also. So we work with three-step transformation, all these parts of trauma and the results today. But we don't stop there. We will go and find the beliefs that are there as a result of those negative events. We will clear those negative and irrational beliefs, and we will instill a positive and life-affirming belief. So we will try to create an option for the person other than what they have believed until now. The positive version is not necessarily the opposite. It's not going to be a super positive and idealistic belief, but it's an option that allows the person to move forward and view the world through a different lens. So taking the example that I talked about before, I believe that the person has because that happened with their father and all these men, is that all men are unreliable. And so that's a negative belief because it's a generalization of all men. And so we can clear that belief and we can instill an option that is closer to reality, that some men are trustworthy. We're not going to say all men because that's not true, but some men. And this opens the possibility for the person to change how they relate to others. And we also don't stop there. We have clear trauma. We have changed beliefs. And of course, this is just an example, but it will be more than just one phrase. And what we do after is develop positive qualities that weren't able to develop because of trauma, like confidence, for instance, in that case, or trust or self-worth, etc. So those beliefs did not develop because of the negative events, but we can help them develop with AIT. We also teach other tools to the clients, like short exercises that they can do to balance their energy, come back to the present, treat triggers at home, which is very important for people who are very emotional or have a lot of trauma, cope with overwhelming emotions. And we also teach targeted guided meditation. So AIT has meditations that you can use with the client and meditations that you can use with yourself as a therapist. So we also have those tools. So how do we clear trauma, or how do we clear the negative? The main technique in AIT uses energy centers to clear trauma. Candace Pert proved the existence of energy centers in our body when she found they are in the same place as neuropeptide receptors. This was a very important discovery. In AIT, we use 13 centers, and each one holds certain information about our life experiences. And these centers are aligned with the spine. So I want to stress that AIT is a complete therapeutic method and is not just its technique that I'm going to explain right now. You will learn how to use protocols and processes to treat a number of psychological, physical, and spiritual issues. So talking about the energy centers really quickly, because if you take the seminars, you will talk about this in more detail. We use the centers along the body, who are the energy system, who is very subtle and quickly changes. So one is the crown, another forehead, the chin, who is the auxiliary center of the throat. Then we have the throat, the chest, both sides of the heart. So this one is the heart and both sides of the heart. Then solar plexus, or where the diaphragm is, the pit of your stomach, your belly button, pelvic center, both creases, who have to do with the root in the front part of your body, and then the root, who you can reach, which you can reach just sitting on your hand. So it's at the base of the spine. So each of the centers hold different information. And this is very interesting because when we learn to work with AIT, we will find that some centers will evoke different emotions or different informations or different insight. And for instance, the crown has to do with father issues. So if I'm working with a person with father issues and they say, I feel it here, and I'm like, yeah, that's perfect. It's not weird because this has to do with father issues and with the connection with everything as well. For instance, the chin has to do with shame, humiliation. So usually this center is very involved when we're talking about sexual abuse. So it will be activated usually. Another example could be the heart, which is the one that has more expansion, has to do with love, tenderness, compassion, but also sadness, fear, grief, spiritual expansion. And in the physical side has to do with heart, lungs, and hands, arms, and shoulders. The solar plexus or the diaphragm has to do with power and control, manipulation, all the fiery emotions like the rage, the anger, life-affirming emotions, passion. And in the physical part has to do with the organs in our trunk, the stomach, the liver, spleen, pancreas, kidneys, and so on. So all the centers are important, but I don't want to go into much detail because this is the seminar that you're going to do and you can learn more. And another important center, just to give you an example, is the root. That's a very, very important one because it has to do with mother issues. So we have father here and we have mother at the bottom. And survival issues, abandonment issues, attachment issues, basic nurturing, basic needs as an infant, toddler issues. So all the, when you're a little child, the first part of your life. And in the physical part has to do with the intestines, feet, legs, and all the adjacent areas. So as you see, the energy centers hold all the information of all our experiences in life. And so even if we are not aware of them, we don't remember, all the information is there. All the information we need to work with a client is there. And so this is very important because it's an amazing source of healing and of information that we can use as therapists. And so I wanted to just mention some of the seminars and how the structure in AIT works. I don't know if someone has any questions of the information I gave, who wants to comment something? No? Okay. So when we talk about getting trained as an AIT therapist, the first seminar that you will take is the basics. So this is the one that you need to be able to move on to other seminars. And you will learn about what we talked about today. You will learn about energy centers, energy tools, the theory of AIT, theory of trauma, and you will learn the AIT technique, and you will learn the protocols that you will be using. So AIT has very structured protocols, which as a therapist, I found refreshing when I first started because it's something that I can follow step by step. And so you will learn the trauma protocol, the connections protocol, positive qualities, meditations, quick and instantaneous AIT, which are protocols that the person can use at home. And so you will learn all the technique and the basic part of AIT so that you can then work with clients. So the basics is the one that you will take first. And when you finish this 24-hour course, you will be ready to apply this knowledge to your own practice. The second one that you will take is MAP. So that's Mastering AIT Practice, and you will learn more about how to work with clients, how to structure the work. Because like I mentioned before, AIT is not like other therapies where you work with what the person brings each session, but you will have to follow up from what you're working from before. Unless, of course, there's a crisis, but then there is a structural work that you have to do in order to clear completely, and so that the healing can be more thorough and last longer. And so you will do the MAP, and you will learn the True Origins protocol, which is an amazing protocol that I use a lot, and the earliest trauma protocol as well. And then the foundation seminars that you can take after basic SEM MAP, or that we recommend that you take after basic SEM MAP, are presence and dissociation, where you work with the symptom of dissociation, of lack of presence, and you learn a lot of tools that you can use with any type of clients. The attachment seminar, which works with theory and practice, and talks about attachment issues that we all have. So it's very, very enriching. And the depth seminar, which is the seminar that treats archetypes, which is an amazing and deep and beautiful seminar to work with. And so after basics and MAP, you can choose any seminars. Of course, you don't have to do this in this order, but this is the suggestion that you do these seminars after basics and MAP if you can. And then we have other seminars in AIT, and you can just choose the ones that are more relevant to your own practice and the people you work with. So we have, for instance, the multi-casual illness for people who work with illness or sick people, personality disorders, anxiety disorders that has obsessive compulsive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder and phobias, PTSD, the cancer prevention and treatment seminar that works with cancer patients or preventing cancer as well. Historical trauma that has the group protocol that is really useful for people who work with groups, and historical trauma, cultural trauma, social trauma, and many others. So I hope you will join us, and I hope this information was helpful to you. So I don't know if someone has any question that they wanna ask before we finish. Okay, then thank you so much for joining me. And don't hesitate to contact AIT if you have any questions. And here are some of the social media that we have. LinkedIn is another one, but I didn't have the logo from LinkedIn, so I didn't add it, but it's also there. So I hope to see you soon, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.